Hey man, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing this evening?
I can't complain.
Good,
Doesn't do
man.
any good.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. You're looking good there, by the
Doesn't
way,
do
in
good.
that North Carolina blue hat you got going on there.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Hey, it's
And I was
for
trying to figure out which one. I just say, yeah, I'll rock the blue one tonight.
I love it. I love it. I was actually laughing because it is Major League Baseball opening night. So I was watching the freaking Yankees already getting off to a hot start, which just really just irks me to no end. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that and the Dodgers. I'm sick of it.
I know,
I'm,
man.
I'm a Bra- I'm a Braves guy, so
Atlanta's
we met.
actually they've not been playing too bad, honestly. I mean, that's my uncle is a huge Braves fan. He loves it. He just and he lives here in Indiana, has his whole life, and that's all he does. He actually goes to spring training most of the years. He couldn't make it out this year, but I get all my Braves updates from him.
Nice. We used to go to a bunch just because we're down here, especially when they were in. They used to be in the West Palm Beach area, and then they were at Disney forever. So we'd go out and watch. But spring training was um, back in the '90s was really cool. Like when Dion Sanders was on the
Oh
Reds,
yeah.
I used to just go and just walk around and stand right next to him. Jack Morris, I'm a huge baseball guy. So yeah, I saw so many, man,
When
because
you think
you
back to
could
those
within.
years, I'm to be honest with you, like I'm spoiled. Like when I think back to some of those Braves teams, I mean, we talk about Smoltz and Glavine and like all those guys, like I grew up. I mean, that was like in my prime watching those guys, and like for me, it was like,
Yeah,
those are some awesome players, and they had a stacked lineup.
they should have won 4 or 5 World Series. They really should have.
I know. What's up, Midwest Sense? What's up, Panda? Hey, man,
Hey
sorry about the
guys, hey guys.
Yankees. Sorry about the Yankees. We got a great crew in here. So, Danny, what's going on? Good. Thank you for
Good.
joining us this evening. Hope things are going well down there. Yeah, San Francisco's they're struggling right now, but hopefully they'll get back. I don't know. It'll be an interesting baseball year. But hey, my Cubs are undefeated right now, so let's just celebrate that until tomorrow. We are undefeated.
Yeah.
Uh,
I tell the story all the time growing up. You were either a Braves fan or a Cubs fan because the TVs when we were kids, it was channel 2 through 13.
you either
Channel
had
2 was the Braves
Yep.
and channel 8 was the Cubs.
You had either
So
Turner or
baseball,
WGN, right?
that's it. And both grandpas were Braves fans. I was a diehard Dale Murphy fan, and both grandpas loved him and hated him. They're like, he either hits a home run or strike out. That's what he would do.
It's
But
hilarious. Well, we'll get going here because I know people are here. They're probably not here for baseball talk, although we love baseball talk. We're as Paulie Sin
yeah,
says, this is our crossover content. But we've got a lot of great questions to get to. And first off, just let me say thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You were so
thank you.
supportive early on for this show and this idea, and I just really appreciate you just taking the time to do this. And it means a lot to me. You were one of the first people that encouraged me in this space to kind of do this, and I don't know. It really means a lot that you'd come on and talk to me. So I'm excited about that. But also everybody in the chat. So those of you, we've got a great crowd here tonight. Please continue throughout. We're going to go through the questions, but please continue to share out and like the live, tap the live. That would be very helpful for us as we want to make sure that more people get in here to be able to hear this interview tonight. And then we also are recording, so I will have this up on the Tube of the U sometime tomorrow. So if you do miss it or have to bow out, I know some people have to go to work earlier on East Coast time, and it may get a little late on you. Just know that we'll have it recorded, and you'll be able to come back and finish watching it out. So with that, we'll get going, Pops. So obviously we've been calling you Pops forever. But you actually have a name, and that name is William Nelson
I
that a
do.
lot of people don't know. I feel like we
Yeah.
have to start there. So tell us a little bit more about
William
who
Bill.
William Nelson is and maybe
Yeah.
a little bit more about you beyond fragrance.
Yeah, William Nelson. Everybody calls me Billy. I hate the name Billy, but it's what they called me my whole life, and legally it's William. But got the Pops name from when my kids were younger. A lot of their friends would come over, and just to be not to be whatever, but some of them didn't have dads, and so I was Pops, and it just kind of stuck. Now my kids will call me Pops, and so it just kind of one of those things. Where Pops just kind of stuck. And so my son bought me this hat. It's actually the 124th U.S. Open. and
Wow.
one of the G4 Golf sells them every year at Father's Day. So I have three, all the three that I wear. Well, I have like five, but these three like this come from G4 Golf, and so yeah, they say pops on them. So every year I get one or two of them.
I love that. Well, I love that already because you've already kind of started talking about some things that are very important to you. I know family is definitely one of those things that's hugely important to you, and I love the fact that as somebody who has young kids now, I'm starting to figure out like how important those individuals are that are around your kids and around the family. So I love that they all called you pops. I think
Absolutely.
that says a lot because it does take a neighborhood or it takes a village, right? As they say, with all of us kind of raising. And
Yeah.
it's awesome that you're there for some of your kids' friends too. I think that says a lot about who you are and a lot about the village that it takes to help raise people.
Yes, sir. Um, so yeah, absolutely. And I know we'll get into the questions, but I do want to take a moment and say thank you. I was kind of hoping you would ask just because I love your platform. I've told you that privately. You've asked for feedback several, probably a month ago or two, and I love this format. I think this is needed more in the fragrance community, more interview styles where we get to know people who they really are, what their belief systems are, not necessarily faith, but their belief systems in life. What are they looking for? What have they achieved? What are they looking to achieve? What are their goals? And I love it. I love to just hear. Obviously, we tie fragrance in, but it's just who are they as a person? What's important to them in life. So I think it's an honor. I do have another one coming up in April. Someone else has asked me to do one, so I'm pretty excited about that as
That's
well.
awesome. Well, we'll definitely need to promote that, and we'll help share the word out on that because, again, it's one of those things where I agree with you, and I think it's so good to get to know the people that are behind it because we all have stories, and that's what I really like, and I think one of the things that I've learned early on, because I've done some things related to this in different aspects of my life, but I love telling stories, and I just feel like everybody has such a compelling story, and if you don't take the time to stop and ask, you can just get lost in whatever you're doing. And I think that we're all real, we're all people, we all have baggage, we all have great things, we all have things we wish we did better. It's all those things of it's
Yeah,
real life, right? And I love to be able to talk about those things,
absolutely.
and I think that helps a lot. It really helps a lot. So question, beyond fragrance, kind of leading us into that. So, like, if I was to ask you, kind of, what are some hobbies outside of fragrance? I know that I think you may sing in a choir, or maybe potentially, or no, your wife does, right?
No, my wife. So my phone is sitting on a keyboard. And I'll back up to, I play keys, I play bass, I play drums. I'm literally playing bass Sunday at church. But I started playing, um, I know you wanted to kind of, I think, can we start like at the early years?
For sure,
Because I know
for
you
sure.
mentioned it.
Yeah,
So it kind of leads into some of those questions. So I grew up, and hopefully I'm not getting too far ahead of your questions. I was born in Hollywood, Florida. I grew up in a little town called Okeechobee. So when you see the Florida map and you see that big lake, that's Lake Okeechobee. And right above it is the little town Okeechobee. I grew up there, went to high school there, church there, and was raised by a single mom. We usually lived with her dad, um, and then we were really, really, really poor. My joke is we weren't even poor. We were po. We couldn't even afford the OR. We were just like, it was difficult growing up to say the least. My dad wasn't around. He left my mom at when I was 3 months old. I have one brother who's 3 years older. So I wore hand-me-downs. We had the holes in the pants with the patches, and I remember we didn't even have $10 for me to play t-ball. Somebody gave us $10, and just crazy stories, Dean. Like, go in the grocery store and candy bars would be a dime or a quarter. My mom's like, "Don't even ask." You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah.
was just really, really rough. But what we had was faith. We never missed church until I was 18 years old. I missed one church service, and that's the honest to God truth. Um, and my mom, we went to church every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, revivals, whatever. She had faith. That's what she had, and a belief system. And so that's all I ever remember was going to church. So that was our life. So it
Do you
kind of
mind if I
shaped me
do you
into.
mind if I ask
Yeah.
what's her name? Because I just feel like what an amazing testament. Is she? I hate to even ask, but is she still with us, or has she passed?
No,
No.
Mary was her name, and she was half Italian, believe it or not. She grew up. It's funny how life works. She grew up here, and my dad in Jacksonville, and we end up in Jacksonville. It's kind of just crazy, but she was her mom was a Legacy, full-blooded Italian, and her dad was Ariel, and her mom died when she was 16. So my mom passed about 4 or 5 years ago. Still had the black hair. She had gray, but I mean, the olive skin like an Italian. Um,
Did,
just
did she cook like? Did she cook
yeah.
like an Italian, or because you're kind of fit? So
No,
I was going to say I didn't
yeah,
think so.
no. I mean, I'm a real picky eater. And I think because we just grew up, she was allergic to like seafood, and so we didn't eat a lot of like even fish. It was just very basic. I mean, I was telling, I think it was TJB or somebody the other day, like I grew up a lot of times eating mayonnaise sandwiches. That's all we had, you know.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just whatever you had, you just threw it on a piece of bread, and if you had bread, you know, like it was just when I tell you it was rough, it was rough for a long time.
You know,
Um,
I'll tell you one thing that comes to mind for me is because I kind not all, not completely similar, obviously, but I feel like I can relate to a lot of what you're talking about. I I grew up. A lot of people don't know. I grew up in the housing projects here in Indiana, and we were very poor too, and it's so weird to see that I'm in higher education now because it's such a weird kind of I have very bad imposter syndrome, like very bad. Like sometimes I would sit here and think like it's just wild. I'm like I have no business being where I'm at doing the things that I'm doing.
yeah,
The way I grew up, I've got a good friend of mine who is similar story. We've been friends for years, and it's just. But I do think that it shapes while it's certainly a hurdle. I mean, it is a huge hurdle to overcome, right? Like there's so many things that we could go back
it
and
is.
talk about how we've had to overcome. It's also in a sense a little bit of a blessing because it's really I think back often like would I have turned out the same way had I not had a lot of those struggles early on? Like would I've had
Right.
that same drive? And I'll tell you, it scares the hell out of me as a dad because I give
Yep.
my kids pretty much everything, and like
Yeah.
because because I can and I've worked hard, and I'm like, man, are they gonna will they have that same struggle, right? And will that, I don't know.
Right.
Like it's something that I think about often.
Yeah. My brother and I, our dad wasn't around till he came back. So my mom, when you grow up real religious, a lot of faiths, especially back then, didn't believe in divorce. So he wouldn't divorce her, even though he had girlfriends, and we think we probably have siblings out there somewhere. Uh, but that neither one would divorce, and it would get embarrassing, Dean. Every church service, pray for Steve. That was his name, Steve. Steve. Me and my brother just hang our heads like, come on. you know, we saw him up till I was 13. I probably only saw him twice. It was a lot of he's coming and then he wouldn't come. He said he's sending money, he wouldn't send it, blah, blah, blah. Came back when she let him come home. I was about 13, and he kind of got his life on track, and life changed for us, drastically because owned his own business, so to speak. And, um, so we finally could survive a little bit. We weren't moving, felt like every, little bit. One time when I first got married, we rode around our little town. I told my wife, I was like, I used to live there. I looked there, like 10 different. She goes, "What in the world?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you stayed long enough till they kicked you out, and then you move again." And but it definitely shaped me, because my brother and I made a pact when we were younger, like we would never cheat on our wives because we saw the hurt, my mom went through. My brother has never drank a drop of alcohol because, my dad drank, and I can't say that. I mean, I have, and just, never really been drunk or nothing. But but not that it makes me holy or anything. I don't curse. My wife's never heard me cuss. My kids, my wife jokes with me all the time. Can you just say one cuss word before we die? So I just know that like you're human, and it's just a joke, But I mean, I have my faults, just like anybody. We all have our thorns in the flesh or whatever. But it's just pacts we kind of made to like we just want to be so different than what he was, and the things we saw, and we wanted to be the best Look, WT,
Yeah.
we need to.
Oh, WT. I'm
Man,
so glad we have this
yeah,
guy here.
I love him.
He made us break. He knew he was
I
going to do
know,
it.
yeah. But I'll quickly tell you guys, like, if we grew up Pentecostal, like, I didn't own a pair of, I mean, I owned shorts, but I wasn't allowed to wear them outside till I was 18. And that's because I was considered an adult. Like they called my joke is they called me sweatpants Billy because in high school in South Florida, I would wear sweatpants to PE. I couldn't have a class ring. I couldn't go to dances. I mean, we grew up like really, really strict, like it was, so that, was difficult within itself, um, but anyway, obviously times have changed and I'm in shorts now.
Hey, I was going
I
to
wear
say,
shorts all the time.
I was
Yeah.
kind of laughing, Nick. We should have that rule for WT that he can't wear shorts anymore. Like he has to wear pants all the time. Like that should be something we need to do,
Yeah.
WT.
And no cursing for WT.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
let's not go that far. Let's
um,
not. I mean, we can't.
no,
I
I
mean, we're
don't
not.
know,
I don't know if we
but
can.
it,
I don't know
but
if we
it
can
does.
convert souls like that quick.
Yeah, but it did shape me into a lot, um, just like character, because when you have a choice, like you said earlier, when you see something, you have a choice to either be like it or not be like it, or somewhere in between. And we just made a hard choice to just we're not going to be, that. And my brother still remained close to my dad. I was a mama's boy to the core. Called her. We spoke 3 or 4 times a day on my way to work, on my way home. Like she was a prayer warrior. She always, believed in me and pushed me. And, um, she didn't have a lot of self drive. She was very much an old school soul as far as she was, wanted to stay home, raise kids and cook and clean. And, but she was raised by a dad and no mom hardly. And then here she was raising boys, and you know what I mean? So it's kind of even opposite. She didn't even really, there was a lot of things like, I mean, it's embarrassing, but I was grown before I even knew, like, she just didn't know to teach us. And, just the dad, didn't teach us. And my brother and I really struggled with certain things. And anyway, but it
Hey,
definitely shapes you as
yeah, I appreciate you being vulnerable. I appreciate it. I mean, that's and telling us that
yep,
because I think that that's one of the things that I really am trying to do too is talk more about because we all have our stuff, and like I even have seen a few people in the chat here talk about things like somebody says, "Hey, it builds character," and you know what it does, and I think that we are a collection of our experiences. That's what makes us and what drives a lot of our decisions and how we are in business. And I think that as we talk more about your fragrance journey, I have a feeling we're going to be pulling out some things that have shaped and
right.
influenced that based on the way that you grew up. So
Absolutely.
we don't know what we don't know. That's exactly right, Jen Renee. I mean, that's exactly
Yeah.
right. And so thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate you opening up and
Yeah.
talking more about that because that's I think so important. And I hope that on this show, we're able to do that with all
Yeah.
of our guests because I do think it shapes so much of it. And we don't ever talk about it. We don't have time to talk about
Yeah.
kind of what shaped us and how we ended up, as we are. And I think it's too important. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, the dad was, he was just always just a shady person. He had a big heart but just couldn't stay out of doing shady, stuff. And it was just real interesting how and I don't mind. I shared it on a live before. I actually when I was young, right before I got married, was arrested for something he did
Oh
and
my.
almost went to prison for 5 years. And luckily, I give God the credit. Like my mom came and I literally served some probation time and they did it all away and found out, the victim actually came forward and said this kid has suffered enough. It was his dad, and it's still a scar there. But it's things like that. I didn't speak to him for like 8 years. I had a lot of bitterness and anger, just like and he made a comment after it first happened, better him than me, and it was just really really tough to just understand like, wow, this guy um could treat you, because what I found out was they arrested me because they thought he would come forward like most dads would. Like if it was my son, that I did something. There's just no way. And, they told me that. They said, we thought we could get you, that he would come forward, but instead, and, it was something that was wrong. I picked up a check for him, and the check was made out. I'm being very transparent. The check was made out to me. I was just young. I was like 19 years old, didn't know what I'd done it 100 times, but this time he didn't pay the guy back, and the guy wanted his money, and it was a lot of money. And just, you're young and dumb and naive, but anyway, it all worked out. And so a lot of those things you just see like, wow, um, you know,
Can I ask you a follow up there that I wasn't going to originally ask, but I because it kind of reminds me a little bit of my story and who helped me get out of that. And so I know that there are probably, besides your parents, there's some other people in your life that probably you looked up to as mentors along the way, or other people that maybe have been outside the home that kind of helped. Maybe you got to learn a little bit by watching. Was there anybody in your life like that that really kind of helped shape you that was outside the home that you kind of looked up to?
um,
Because for me, there were some mentors that most of them were in school for me, but there were some people that I really got to learn how to. I got to see what life probably really should have been like that I didn't really get at home, and I'm just kind of curious if you had that
so,
same thing.
so I mean, obviously I had spiritual mentors, but it wasn't until I got married young at 22, and my father-in-law was probably the best because he was a man's man. Um, did AC refrigeration, and he was the ultimate grandfather, and loved his kids and his wife, and was just, brought me in and would show me you know, like what a dad's supposed to do. Every time we were around, or just me and him would go and wash his truck and go eat a steak together, and just talked about life. He'd get on to me for stupid stuff and correct me. And he was, yeah, just and he passed away at 62 years old. And but he was such a, probably the man figure that I had always kind of desired. Because what I would do, Dean, is I would, like, through church camps and different things, I would always gravitate to the women because that's all I ever knew was my mom. So the men I didn't understand. I didn't understand, some of the, because most men are distant. And, you're looking for love and you're looking for different things, I always cling to the different ladies. And it was usually my buddies' moms became like my second mom, and never their dads. But it was, yeah, just, I don't know, man, you got my mind really thinking,
Well,
tonight.
that's good. Those are the best
uh,
interviews. Thanks for the caps,
yeah,
guys. I really appreciate you guys doing
yeah,
that. Thank you so much for that. Well, this kind of gets me kind of into my next question. So we talk about your family now. So,
yeah,
so we talk about, so I know you've got a wonderful wife. We've got to see her on a couple of your events and kind of joining in a little bit.
yeah,
And just, I love that dynamic. But I know you've also talked a little bit about your kids. So tell us about your wife and your kids and maybe their spouses if they're
yeah,
married, and a little bit about how they've kind of
absolutely.
influenced your life as well.
Yeah. So I met my wife when we were 8 years old at church, and she could play the piano and sing at 8. She became our, what we called our song leader back then. And I thought I was in love. We were in the same grade. I literally wrote her a note, just like the country song, "Will you go with me? Check yes or no." No joke. In like fourth grade, we were boyfriend and girlfriend for just a little bit. But we went to
Yeah.
church together until we were like 14. We graduated together, but she was super popular, which we all knew each other, but she was like runner up for homecoming queen. Um, I started preaching at 16 years old, so I wasn't ever allowed to do anything. So we weren't like in the same friend groups or nothing. But she moved away to Orlando. I stayed around. She came back to church when we were like 21, and we got together and got married at 22. And we had our first kid right away. I mean, we got married in December. She was pregnant in February, just young and dumb. And our first child was born with a heart condition. And I don't know if you know this, but
I don't.
yeah, his name was Caleb. All four veins were born on the same side of his heart. So they had to go in, as soon as he was born, he came out blue. But they came in, um, took two, the two, put it on the right side of the heart, two pump it out, to receive it. And he got a little bit better. They came back and said that, the veins or arteries are too small. We need to go back in and do open heart surgery again. So they did that. Um, and they told us he was getting better. We were expecting him to come home. and then he got septic and got infections, and they came back in January. He was born November 5th, and they said that they needed to do another open heart surgery, but they're like, we're going to tell you he's not going to make it. He's just too little. You have a choice. They said we'll give him, I think, 3 weeks. And we're like, yeah, we're not doing this surgery. And I was trying to work. He was in Tampa, and Tampa's about 3 hours from where we were in Okeechobee. So I would drive on the weekends and go see her and him. And my wife sat there in front of the doctor. One of the greatest things, and I'm still so proud of her. The doctor, is trying to just be real, and he said, her name's Kim, and he's like, Kim, I know you believe, and that's great, but you just don't see miracles anymore. I'm just being real. This is what's going to happen. And she looked at him, Dean, and she said, I want to tell you something. If God doesn't heal him, I want you to know he was still able to. And that doctor lost it. He started crying. All the
Wow.
nurses were crying. And she called and told me, and I was like, "You go, girl." She's like, "I'm just telling you, like, just because he doesn't mean he wasn't able." And so he ended up passing away, and it was tough. I mean,
Yeah. How old were
because
you guys
the
at the time?
23. Well, he passed 97. So yeah, I was 23. I was born in 73. So he's January. So I just turned 23 years old. Um, yeah, it was, and they always want to tell you there's a fault, right? And they were like, well, stress. So of course I got the blame, things like that. And just for a little bit, we split up, for like a week, like just life. And we got back together, and she's like, typical, emotional mess. We're never going to have kids. And but about 3 weeks later, she's like, I think I want to try again.
Wow.
And we tried, and we've had 3 kids since. They're all perfectly fine. Savannah, who's like the moderator on my, the not what, or she's the oldest, and she is married with 2 kids. So I have 2 grandkids. My middle one is Bryce, and he's married, and they're trying to have kids. They're both school teachers, and he's a high school football coach. Offensive coordinator. And then my youngest one, Brady, is in college. He's 23, and he's on a golf scholarship.
Oh,
So
wow.
uh yeah, he's pretty good. His handicap is like a 5. He's at a small school, Christian school. He was one of those kids that didn't go to the school right away. He did, then dropped out and went to work. And he came to us like 2 years ago, and he's like, I feel like I'm an old man. I'm just working, and that's all I do. I want to go back to school. And we're like, well, we paid for both of your, siblings. And so he's one of those late bloomers, and he's just a couple hours away, but he's on a golf scholarship, man.
That is
So
awesome. That is so
it's,
cool.
yeah,
That is, and so I mean, 3 great kids, and I appreciate you telling that story. I did not know that, and but just a testament to that you married the right woman. I mean, what a great I mean, what a wow,
absolutely.
I mean, gosh, I just sitting there, like I said, people in the chat, they're like, wow, they're like, didn't know I'd be crying tonight. Yeah, I understand that completely. I didn't either, man. I appreciate you telling us
Yeah.
about that. So I'm kind of curious, not to have a hard transition, but I'm kind of curious. Okay, so where did this love of fragrance come from? So we've talked about your growing up a little
So
bit, and we've talked about your family. And so when in this journey were you like, you know what, I like fragrance?
I'll tell you something. I mean, so in high school, obviously, we're all trying to fit in, and our little town is a very much a country town, redneck. I mean, literally has the world's largest livestock market. It's, rednecks, but it's also preps and, everything else. But anyway, in high school, I wanted obsession. Like I wanted it so bad, but we didn't have the money. I remember my mom bought me something for Christmas, and I just knew it was obsession. Well, it was a fake obsession, the people walking around in the parking lots back then and selling. But I had like Paul Sebastian, I had Halston Z14, and obviously Cool Waters, and I had a few fragrances, and love, I've always loved to dress up, and then going to church, I dress up in cologne and things like that. And a real quick funny story, in high school, I finally ended up with like uh, that much of a green polo. Polo was very expensive. And I remember one day I took it to school. I bet I sprayed 100 sprays. And finally, around fifth period, the teacher was like, somebody just like, and they're all like, "It's Billy, man," and I was like, I was so embarrassed. Like,
Oh no, it could have all ended
uh,
right then. The whole story could have stopped right
yeah, I
there.
mean, yeah. So, um, and then like right after high school, one of my favorites, and I still have a bottle somewhere, was Escape. Escape was like the first thing that brought tons of compliments to me. Like a lot of, I mean, Escape was my jam for a couple years. And then it was just like everybody else, it was Abercrombie Fierce. My wife today still says that's her favorite fragrance on me. So like I said, I've just always had a love for it. Never had a bunch, but until later in life, that I've always, had some, you know, just like as the accessory, so to speak.
Ah, without a doubt. No, it makes a whole lot of sense. So when did you, I guess, when would you say you kind of converted to collector status? Like when did you kind of consider yourself to be a major collector?
So about 5 or 6 years ago, started traveling a lot for work, and I didn't start collecting then. I guess probably now it's been about 3.5 years maybe. And I remember still we were in Atlanta into the airport and went in a duty free, and my brother-in-law, he worked for me, and he's like, "Do you have the Blue Day Chanel?" And I was like, "No." I didn't even know what blue, I mean, I knew what Chanel was, but I didn't know what Blue Day Chanel. I think at that time I had Polo Red and Polo Black. That's what I had, an Ed Hardy or something stupid. But anyway, he's like, "Oh, check it out." And I was like, "Oh, well, we travel a lot." It was the EDP. I didn't even know what that was. And I bought it and it didn't last, and I was so disappointed. And we were talking about it, and someone said you should go on TikTok. Like it can tell you like all kind of stuff about fragrances. So I go on TikTok and I'm looking. Well, we're still traveling. I'm in. I see Gucci Guilty. I snag Gucci Guilty. Same thing, doesn't last. So then I'm in this wormhole of like, what is, toilets and EDPs and all this stuff. And it just started, I was making good money. So now, I'm watching TikTok, and Stronger with You Intensely was discontinued at the time. Well, I'm searching for that, and it just turned into the JPG thing was going crazy. So I was buying JPGs, and it just started like just. And then I remember at Christmas, all I got was fragrances because that's all I wanted. So yeah, it just kind of took off from there, and yeah, that's it. Just started collecting and collecting.
Oh, we know how it goes. Believe me, we all
Yeah,
have our story. But for those of you that are just joining us, we're talking to Pops with Covenant Sense, and we have not talked a lot about Covenant Sense yet. But we're about to transition. It's the perfect time as ever, and so I kind of wanted to show a couple of the Covenant Scents that I have right here. I've got a
well,
few of
thank you.
your line right here. I've got some the Covenant Relentless, Sea of Kings, Goose Maverick, and I've got your two new ones coming, 10 mil samples,
Nice.
Valor and Sovereign, which we'll talk a little bit about. But I thought I would definitely show that. And
Yes.
if you guys are interested in learning more
Thank you.
about the brand, there's the website where you can do that. So you can definitely check out that information, and you can see that as well. But let's talk a little bit about that, Pops, as we kind of transition here and talk a little bit more about your brand. So, was there a specific moment that, throughout this journey that you were like, you know what, I want to own my own brand? Like, this is something like I know I'm a collector, I'm starting to, I enjoy these fragrances. I've got the gateway drug that is Blue Day Chanel that we
Yeah.
were laughing at that BDC. So what,
Yeah.
kind of when did you decide, hey, I'm going to, kind of think through this starting of a brand?
So this room was in another room. Once my middle son got married, I took his bedroom, made it my cologne room. And I just had these two cabinets and then what two more. But anyway, my wife, I mean, obviously they see the packages coming just like everybody else, but she hadn't been in the cologne room. And she went in and all the lights were on, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." She's like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I said, I don't know. I said, "I think I'm gonna start making fragrances." Now, through this journey, especially on the Book of Faces, I'm very active, or was, in one of the biggest groups on there. It's Fragrance Marketplace. And I'm actually considered a group expert on there because I've done so many transactions and different things. But I tried so much, Dean. I was making hybrids. I was selling Aventus cologne and imagination 3 or 4 years ago. I got into making, I don't think I have one here, but I would make unscented lotion, and then I had a spreadsheet of all my fragrances, and you could say I want a Baccarat lotion, and I would load in Baccarat, literally spray. I knew the formula, like how much to put in there. I'd stir it all up, seal it, and selling scented lotions. Just all kind of different stuff. I had a connect on Louis Vuittons. At one time, I was the self-proclaimed Louis Vuitton king. I told the story. I probably had 15 bottles of Cactus Garden and about 20 of Sunsong. Um, just I sold them one day and bought a Rolex. True story. Fragrance Nevea bought it. Caleb bought all my stuff. I decided to sell it. I do have a little bit left. But anyway, I had the big jugs of it from Louis Vuitton as well. But anyway, I was like, I think I can do this. And I've been making the hybrids, and um, you know, you you hope you can meet somebody who meets somebody, who knows somebody. And one day I was on here and someone said, anybody in the Jacksonville area, there's this person and you should check them out. So of course they love fragrances. I was like, I'm gonna check them out. The next day I drove all the way to the west side and went in and just made a connection. The guy actually lives where I live, but he owns an oil shop, and we got to talking, and um, just made a connection. He was very transparent. He's like, yeah. Well, after me going a couple of times, he's like, yeah, I make my own fragrances. I was like, how do you do that? And he told me, and he talked about duplication, and I was like, hmm. And me being the person I am, I'm very inquisitive. And but one day we'd kind of become fast friends. And I was like, hey, man, I really want to, I think I can make some fragrances. Can you help me? And at first he wouldn't give me the contact. He's like, yeah, and we sent some stuff off together that I had made, and we got it, made. And then eventually he was like, man, you're good at this. He said, I'm just going to go ahead and give you their contact information. And then, um, yeah, I just started, and I've shared this with you, and I've shared it on lives before. I'm not a master perfumer and will never claim to be, right? That's just not, I'm not Noah, I'm not Will, Third Eye. These guys are great at what they do. I'm fortunate I don't have to be. I'm not comparing myself to Niles or anybody, but I'm more like Niles in the sense that I know what I like and I know what I want to create, and I'll play around with it. And if I can get somewhat right, then I can work with a master perfumer with my oil company and a project manager, and then we build, what my vision is, through samples, talks, communications. And then once I thumbs up, then I buy it in bulk and then I perfume it. I'll still add certain things, I'll still maybe add some ambroxan and ISOE, and, as long as it meets the standards. So that's the key. Most people have heard me talk about that. There's only a few fragrances, KBN, um, Sacred Sweetness, and um, Goose are the only three fragrances that my oil company did not like. I just made a batch myself, um, and I obviously did a lot of testing on skin before I sent it out. And I think that if I could just one clear message I share tonight too is before we buy anything from any brand, we need to know what we're putting on our skin. I think it's very important. And I'll tell you who really like pushed me on this is Third Eye, and I hope he's still in here. We've had a lot of conversations, and he shared, I won't share things, but he's inquisitive as well, and he's like, hey, you know, if you do this and you have too much of this, it can cause this problem. Like oak moss there's people that literally will stop breathing with too much oak moss. And, everything needs to meet the IFRA standards and, safety data sheets and all of that stuff. So I can tell you that all my stuff, except those three fragrances, um, all come from my company. I can produce the safety data sheets, all of those types of things. And I think that's important. And I've literally seen Will in a group question, hey, I like your notes in there. You know, did you meet the standards and not go over? And of course, at first it seems like he's being a jerk, but it's not. It's him saying, "Hey, we're trying to uphold a standard here that you're not just putting out something that could harm us. Like we want to make sure that these things all line up." So I think that's important in this community. I know we're off the subject a little bit, but I think it's important when we're looking at brands. Yeah, look what he said. Safety is non-negotiable. I
Beautiful.
think that's important. Yeah, I think it's important that we take that into consideration. Um, I'm not saying that, buy from me. No, I'm not saying anything. Nobody read between the lines. It's just,
No.
I think it's important to understand, um, like it's just, you just can't throw something together, a whole bunch of chemicals and think it's okay.
Well, I'm glad
It's
to
just
hear.
not.
No, I'm glad to hear you say that because I mean we've talked about this a lot, and yeah, same thing. Andre with Obscura too. I mean, the responsibility must be owned. He talks about
Yes.
this a lot. I've interviewed both of Will and Andre about this same topic, and I know both of them talk about it at nauseum. I mean, because it's so important, and I appreciate it because
Yes.
I've got my 7-year-old and 11-year-old daughter who are trying fragrances and like they're hugging on me and everything else. Like I don't want to, those are things that you think about, right? And you really got to think about what you put on your skin. So I just want to say thank you for doing that because I think a lot of us don't. We all maybe
Yeah.
assume as consumers like, oh yeah, of course they've done that. Well, that's not. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't assume that, and that's. I think that's
Yeah.
great that you bring
I
that up.
mean, I think it's important. I really do. I mean, I've been preaching it for months and months and months. Any chance I get, like, read into it. That's why I'm always clear. I perfume this, so I hope I got it right. But like even Silhouette, I perfumed. I sent it off. There's people that have the original Jesse's Girl, and then the new batch, they're like, it's not the same, and I'm like, no, because it is done right. It flows the way it's supposed to flow. I would hold on to the OG as a treasure, but if you even Jessie herself, like when she got the new Jesse's Girl, she's like, it is blended better, it flows better. Yeah, the notes are different on how it smells, but we get those notes.
Doc's got me laughing in
Fougere,
the yeah. Doc
nah,
Fuger's got me laughing in
listen,
the chat again. Says the doctor,
yeah,
and
so
and I do have to tell you a
I
quick
know,
story since he's here because I know he
sure.
may have to step out. But he was the first one that got me onto your brand. I had no clue who Covenant Sense was,
Oh
and
wow,
yeah. So
yeah,
we were. This was early days when I reached out to Doc when I
yeah,
was on TikTok, and I he was like, "Hey, let's do it." He was looking for some winter, I think, fragrances. So I sent him about 5 or 6 samples, and being the good guy he was like, "Well, hey, I want to send you some stuff." One of the things he sent me in there was a Relentless, and I fell in love with it. And I bought that was my first bottle
yeah.
was Relentless. And that he said earlier in there, he said Relentless or nothing at all. If you
I
ever
know,
if you ever
right?
stop
It's
selling that, he'd probably come to Florida and take you
no.
out.
So Relentless, well, Sovereign is now. Relentless is the most expensive fragrance that I have to make. It literally has Haitian vetiver in it, which is very, very expensive. So WT. So thank you guys. Relentless was my favorite. The Covenant, it started out the Covenant. That's why I called it the Covenant because I love that Tygar DNA. I've got so many in that DNA realm in my collection. Um, and I thought the Covenant would be the staple, that ginger, grapefruit, vibe. And then I got Relentless. And when it came back, I'm like, man, this Relentless is fire. I've been through so much of it, and it was my favorite. TJB, the Covenant is King. Sovereign,
I love seeing the passionate
yeah,
arguments on either side.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Uh, if I could only wear one, it would be Relentless. Now, I'm going to say that it definitely feel that way, but I feel like Sovereign is the best fragrance. Sovereign, Noble, and Inner Court are the three best fragrances that like really pushed. When you think of the uniqueness, um, they're so unique in their own ways. But Sovereign is my wife's like, wow, this thing smells so expensive. It's all the way it flows and everything is just super. And that's why I I really, really like that one.
Yeah, it's a great
Um,
one. It really is. I mean, it's good. I still Doc is still trying to get it named after him, I think. He's still trying to get the
yeah, I
Cherry
think the Cherry
Relentless. Yeah, the
Relentless,
Cherry
Doctor's
Relentless.
Orders or something. Yeah, we talked about it.
I love
And you
it.
know what? We don't sell a lot of that Cherry Relentless. I've got two bottles in this room.
Come on,
But
Doc. You're
yeah,
not doing your job, Doc. You got to
yeah,
buy more, dude. What are you doing?
it's funny. I'll see him on a live, and next thing you know, I've got an order for Relentless. I'm like, yeah, that's got to be Doc. Yeah.
Too funny.
Um,
Too funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna make a name and name it Fager in the honor of Doc. I think we all, yeah, that's good. Third Eye.
yeah,
I like that. So when we were talking about like Covenant Sense and talking about your brand, I'm kind of curious because you've talked a lot about your faith, and I think that any entrepreneur that kind of starts out with a business, I'm sure that your faith has had to have some sort of influence in that creative process, but also in the
but,
also in just being an entrepreneur in general. It's not easy just to say, hey, I'm going to start a company. Like, I don't think people realize
uh,
the what all goes into that and trying to kind of build your own thing. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like how your faith has influenced that, but also how it is just being an
absolutely,
entrepreneur in general. I mean, it's hard work when you're putting your own money on the
for,
line like that.
for sure. So covenant is very important to me. The covenant is like a vow, it's a commitment. And obviously my vow and commitment are to the Lord. First and foremost, he's number one in my life, and everything I do revolves around that. He's trying to bring him glory and honor in all things. It really is. At the core of who I am, that's all that matters. None of this is going to go with, not trying to preach, but none of this is going to go with us. It's just earthly things. And so if I can do what's right here, then one day I'll have a heavenly treasure. But anyway, so covenant is important. I want to be a man of my word. I feel like I am, you know. Some people may not, but that's okay. They're entitled to that. But I know what I know at the core of me and who I am and what I've done. Those values represent covenant. So that's where the name came from. If you look at, and I've got something here I'll show you kind of up close. It's a cup, but you can kind of see the logo. It's literally it's a perfume bottle, but that's a cross and that's a crown. So, and that's for a purpose, obviously kind of goes back to the faith. So it was kind of like, and because there's so many people, I don't want to, push it in their
Mhm.
face.
Yeah.
But I want it to be the message is there. I stand on it. It's who I am. And so that was important for me. And then, to try to build something based upon that, being like you said, an entrepreneur is tough. I was doing it and working. Really, I was an executive VP for one company, part owner of another. My wife owns a business, and then I had Covenant Sense. So it was really difficult. And then just about 3 weeks ago, which things really changed drastically, and now I'm doing fragrances full time. And it's a lot of work. I mean, I was just at the office till 9 o'clock on the dot, boxing boxes and packing orders and just trying to you're just trying to keep up. I've got I think 9 magnetic spinners and there's stuff spinning all the time. You can't wait till Maverick is gone, because I'm not the guy that's going to put Maverick on and sell it the next day. I want all my stuff to macerate 2 weeks to I like it to macerate 4 weeks. I keep it in cool, dark places, no sunlight. Um, and so basically it's just a constant process. I have 3 rooms, I've got, where all the raw materials are. I'm going in there. I'm trying to think of the future. I'm in here and I've got spinners and I'm looking to make sure how much volume do I have. I'm in another room going, okay, I've got my squeeze bottles. I'm bottling and it's a lot, printing labels. And then, I've got another room that's got boxes and I'm boxing and, envelopes and it's just, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to manage, but it's fun because I just love fragrances and I love seeing the things in the chat, oh, I love this, I love that, and you're just like, wow. And I think the aha moment for me was the first store carrying it was, like, wow. Now she knew me for a couple years, and that one wasn't. But when I took it to La Jotte in Orlando and they said, yeah, then I was like, okay, who else will carry this? And then it
And if
just
I
kind of went from
you're in
there.
11 stores now, right? Is that what 11 different
Yeah,
stores
if you
across the US?
count, yeah, I mean, some of them have multiple stores. So if I'm counting, the different locations, but yeah, we just got in our latest one is in Atlanta, Alpharetta. Um, and the stories, have I been turned down? Absolutely. I was turned down in New Orleans. I was turned down in Miami, and it's okay. It's part of the process. Uh, Max, yes, I'm in Monsentor in Ohio. He placed this that he was the first big order, over 100 bottles. So, House of Dubai over 100 bottles in Chicago. Um, but some of them they'll call you and just be like, "Wow, we have to have this." Refinery told me no, that they were expanding their store, but send the samples. I sent the samples. He called me back and said, "Man, we want them." He said, "We these are unique. They're mass appealing. They're loud. They're heavy." And yeah, he placed an order like right away. House of Dubai, good.
I've got to hook you up with somebody. Speaking of that, there's a couple places here in Louisville, Kentucky that you should have your fragrances in there. So that'll be another
I
thing
would
that
love to.
we talk about. I'll get you hooked up with that. But yeah, I cut you off there. We're talking about House of Dubai and that relation, how that relationship worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would be a kind of a miss if I didn't mention Niles again. Niles, so I helped get him in his first store and I didn't know him. So Sense of Style in Jacksonville, she just had nothing but um, designer stuff. And I went in and started just, talking. I shot some videos and I was like, you really need to watch TikTok. And at the time, Ryex fragrances and a bunch of them was pushing, City Rhythm Miami. Well, I got it and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I started telling her like that was one of the brands and she's taking notes. Well, she reached out to Niles and through email and they started talking. And that's the first store City Rhythm ever went in. And
Wow.
she told me like, yeah, she said not to be whatever. She said Niles didn't even know how to do an invoice because he didn't have stores, like all of that. So Niles never forgot that. He's like, who told you about me? And it was me. And so he would come and I was always gone and we always would say, yeah, we're going to meet up. Well, one day I just reached out. He had just opened the Emmanuel, part owner, and I said, "Hey, I would love for you guys to check out my fragrances." He goes, "Send them to me." So I sent them personally to his address, and he reached back out after he got them. He said, "Man, you're on to something." He said, "These are great." And then we did a call, and next thing I know, he made a post on Facebook, which is really huge because people couldn't believe another brand owner was promoting another brand. And then he called the store and they agreed in Emmanuel, but then he called House of Dubai and he said, "You need to carry this brand." So the owner reached out to me and said, "Hey, send me some samples." So I sent him some samples. He scheduled a Zoom call. We did a Zoom. He said, I took Niall's word. He said he spoke more about your character and you as a person than he did the brand. He said the brand's great, but he just loved you as a person. He said, but we voted. He said we were only going to bring in one more brand. You were up against like 20 something brands, but it was unanimous to bring you in. So that was the first time I like cried. I was
Yeah.
like, what? I mean, like that was really, really cool.
But it
So
also
he's
goes
like, send us
back
100
to
bottles.
But it also goes back to the whole thing we've been talking about how the character matters and the story and the relationship
Yep.
building and I think
Yep.
that's one thing in my life, even with me and what I do for a day job. I work in development and fundraising and kind of it's all about authentic relationship building. And like I always tell all my
It
young
is.
development professionals, and the same thing for sales. You've worked in sales, and you know how this goes. But like you cannot shortchange an authentic relationship. Everybody can see it coming. Everybody knows when you're just kind of one-sided and you're just kind of looking for, I mean, it doesn't matter
Right.
what it is in life. Like you can spot it, like anybody can spot it, especially when someone's asking you for money. That's happened to, when I'm asking donors. I've had a young professional
Right.
who was working and was at working with a donor, and he goes, well, the donor said no, they weren't going to give. He goes, I don't understand, I thought I did everything correctly. And I remember talking to him, and I was like, well, talk me through the relationship. And I found out that he only had known the donor for like 2 or 3 weeks, and he asked for a
Uh,
major commitment. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, you've got to build authentic
no.
relationships. And it's the same thing in entrepreneurship and the same thing in business. So I think those things make a lot of sense.
So I do too. I used to have in my email tag, the greatest mark of a person's character is how they treat people they don't need. And in the end of the day, I can say I'm one thing, but how I live, we can all be one thing on the camera, but who we are when nobody else is looking, that's who you really are. I can say I'm humble, I can say I'm this, I can say I'm that, but who I really am, it's going to come out. What's in the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what's inside is going to eventually come out. So, and in the end, all we have is our integrity, our character, and that's important to me, because in the end, my brand will go nowhere if I'm a fraud as
Yeah.
a person.
Well,
Eventually it'll come out.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think it goes back to, I think it goes back to something that's really important. And I mentioned it on here about like Fager, physician, and like how genuinely nice he was when this random guy on TikTok who just started an account a few days ago reached out to him about, like, and I can go down the line of like, there were so many of you were one of the
Yes.
first ones that when it welcomed me into a box, and I'm like, who in the, I cannot believe these guys are letting me in here. But it's like things like that I think mean a lot, and I'll
Yep.
never forget those things. I'll never ever forget them,
Me too.
because
When I,
it's exactly
yeah.
right.
Absolutely. There's a couple, I don't want to miss anybody for sure, but when I was doing my own lives and stuff, I was really big into Majesty, most of that, but I met Trey, some people know Joe Honey, Jacob Merrill, and we all became like just friends. And Jacob and I just started talking. And you just meet people along the way. Toby and I talk 3 or 4 times a day. Now I've met TJB, and you just meet some really good people, yourself. I mean, like I tell my wife about like certain ones that just really have impacted me. Mel Rodriguez is another one. She's just a great person, and we just, connected. And I don't know, I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's, Third Eye. He'll call me, and we'll talk and we'll bounce things off each other. And he did something that nobody did. He's like, hey man, like, you want to know where I got my labels? You want to know like who did my artwork? Like, and that's huge, man.
It always comes back to us. It
He
always comes back to us 5 times.
yeah,
That's what I love about helping
yeah,
people. I mean, I had a call before this with somebody. I also do some photography work, and there was this business owner that was trying to learn how to do, he didn't know how to do invoices, didn't know how to do some of the, little things like that. And I spent a half an hour talking to him, because and you would have think, because I remember when I needed that help, right? And like when people would help me out, I mean, it just makes the world so much better when you know that you can help somebody out, even a little bit. I mean, it just,
right.
I don't know, it
That's
feeds
right.
my soul too.
It,
So
Yeah, I was telling TJB today, not to be preachy, but there's just principles that we live by. But there's a scripture that says, the left hand should know what the right hand is doing, and how when we give, we should be given in secret. And what I mean by that, like you don't do your gifts before people, because you're rewarded when you brag about your giving. But the Bible says if we give in secret, we'll be rewarded openly. So like we're not supposed to say, oh, I do this and I do that and I get this and that's not what giving is. Giving is from the heart, and it's just some subtle things. And there's so many principles. And the widow gave the mite. She gave all that she had. And again, not to get spiritual, but it's just like those principles align with everything to me. I don't have to let everybody know what I do for everybody else. It's just, or what you do, we do it, and it'll come back around. God will bless us for it.
yeah, well said,
So
well said. So I'm kind of curious. So we've talked about kind of the faith and kind of the pieces that kind of help us and shape us who us are. So tough things happen, right? So how do you push through as a brand owner of Covenant Sense when different challenges come up. I know that, there's all kinds of things that I think about, like from shipping to label issues to bottle issues to, I mean, the USPS just alone, just, how do you deal
Right.
and how do you get through those kind of difficult things when you're trying to build a brand?
It's you just gotta persevere, man. Like I mess up orders, and I'll obviously you make it right. I try to give an upgrade if I mess up. I've messed up people, and send them 3 bottles. Like, hey, and keep it. They're like, let me send this back to you. No, just keep it. It's my mistake. Really, you want me to keep it? Well, yeah, you might like that one too, but mistakes are going to happen, but you just have to keep pushing and try to do better, get more organized. Um, that's the key. Right now, my son-in-law, he worked for me. He was laid off too. He's coming down now at night and helping me. So I'm trying to just be, more because WT said it earlier. I'm a hustler, man. I'm thinking 5 steps, 10 steps ahead, but you have to be, like, and I'm not chasing money. I've already had money. I'm not chasing success. I've already obtained that in life. I'm just trying to still be the provider for my wife. I still want to give her a good life. All these things, and it's just who I am. It's fun, like the next big thing, but that's what I'm just hustling. Some things fall through the cracks. My website looks like crap. It does, but I'm looking for somebody to help me with that, but now I've got, I'm working, to do another whole branding reflection house. I don't want to get too much into it, but I got that site I'm working on and that LLC I'm working on. And I'm just, and this, Dean, we make t-shirts, we make cups,
Yep.
we just hustle. I mean, we are always thinking of ways, our big joke is there's a million ways to make $1 million. And, we're just gonna die going, you know what, we gave it our all. But we're just that way. I apply that same thing. I really do spiritually. I wake up every day and I want to be the best, Christian an example that I can be. And I mean, I'm trying.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, I think we're all a work in progress. There's no doubt about that. So you mentioned some of the
Right.
new things you're doing. So one of those things has been the WNs, right? The things that you've been doing
Yeah,
there, which have been great. Which I'm actually going to go ahead and show this real quick. So for those of you that don't know, so you can definitely come on here and you can find Fragrance Pops on there and just like I did. I think Friday night at 8 p.m. you've got one. So I went ahead and saved it so that I'll be notified when you go live on that and when you sell certain products there. And I think if I remember correctly, you can correct me. I think you're doing it Mondays and Fridays, but you
that's
can
right.
you can talk about that. But what is that role? What does this role kind of play in the overall strategy as you kind of shift to this new addition to kind of what you're working on in the fragrance world?
Yeah. So Jody said it the best, that freaking app.
Sorry,
I
Jody.
um I think it was Trey or somebody. So they said Majesty is on Whatnot, and I'm like, Whatnot? What the heck is Whatnot? You know, and I had downloaded it, but it was so confusing, that I was just like, whatever. And then my wife, this is so bad, but she woke up one morning and she goes, I think I bought a purse last night. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean you think you bought a purse last night? And she's like, I was on Whatnot. I was like, oh my gosh, you were on Whatnot? And she did. She bought an authentic MCM purse. And I'm like, you, you need to take that app off. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on Whatnot. Yeah, 24 bottles later, the first night, it's very addictive, right? It's everybody's been on knows because it's the live auction, it's the competition. You want to win, but even though there's another one probably coming, and they probably have 10 of them, but you want to win that one, and there's been times I paid $50 for a bottle, the next one goes for 27, and you're like, what what did I just do? But it's fun. I love the energy. And I was like, I think I can do this. And first I tried to buy some wholesale stuff and dropped a little bit of covenant on there. And then what would happen is people wanted more Covenant than they did the other stuff, and now it's just really taken off. And then, some know that, with this other brand, we're doing that, and that's booming as well. So the demand is there. I mean, right now, I think we're running the last show, there was 35 people bookmarked it. I think we're over 600 followers now. We've gained, Covenant's probably gained five, six new customers. That one guy, Craig, I think he's got just about everything in the lineup now,
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, and now they're buying oils, and which is another expansion we've went into. Um, if you're waiting on me, you're backing up, because I'm going,
Well, it's so funny.
and
T Money's in the chat. He's like, "Come on, chat, we're too low." He's like, "Come." He's already.
come on,
He's already.
chat.
Come on, chat, we're too low. We're too low. Let's go.
Yeah,
And
come
Jen
on, chat.
Renee,
Come on.
I did want to say, Jen Renee, I know that you have to run. Any of you that have to run, because I do know it's getting a little late. We've got a few more questions, but we will. This is being recorded, so I will put this on the Tube of the U, and I'll have the link out. So just keep checking back, and you'll be able to watch it back. And so anything, you're not going to miss anything. It's this is a great one. It's a lot of good stuff. And then
Yeah,
also, I
I
will.
do want to show.
Oh, go ahead,
I'm sorry. Go
please.
ahead.
Yeah, no, go, no, please.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
show before anybody runs. We did drop this the other night. This is a Covenant Sense, and look at it. It's called a zeal, and
Okay.
it's green. The label is green. A zeal means God is my strength. So I thought it was a cool name. But it's a green juice, and it's a green fragrance. Um, and it's a vetiver, earthy, um, just has a lot of those earthy. It kind of reminds me of Greenlee a little bit, but it also reminds me of Green Irish Tweed without the gagginess that I hate about it. It's just very, like, the best way to describe it is, it's just earthy, but a lot of vetiver. And then, that's a new drop. We dropped Purple Rain, which was super unique. Very much a grape soda style fragrance. I know Toby and Jacob have it, but everybody else that got it should be getting some of that. And then we're going to be dropping maybe tomorrow night Endless Summer with DJ Todd at some point.
That is awesome. That's I'm just laughing at Trey Money's got me. Trey Man's got me laughing in the chat here. Wake up, chap. Wake
Yeah,
up, chap. Lewis's voice.
yeah.
No, it's so funny. You know what's so cool too is, like, we've got some people in the chat right now that have not tried Covenant, and like even Max was like, he goes, "Man, you're killing me," because you keep having these great people on every week. I've got to try a new fragrance. He goes, "You're killing my wallet," but it's I mean, really, I mean, it is. We've got some great people in this
Yes.
space. So what have you learned?
And I want to mention, yeah,
Oh, go ahead. No, please.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I'll quickly say this, and then I do want to answer your question. I did miss WT. WT is one of the most genuine people too, and I don't want to miss out on mentioning him. He'll text me. He loves the brand. I met him in person, and he really is a big teddy bear. But he's just a good person. And my wife and my daughter, we walk around. They just randomly like, "What did you do?" And he calls my Savannah Little Pops, and so she thinks that's the coolest thing. She's like, "I guess I'm Little Pops now." And but yeah, and then a couple other ones I'll quickly mention was Frugal. I don't know if he's still in here. And Spanky. When I was in New York, they are just the best people to me. Frugal and I got to spend 2 days together at Sin Explore. Like, not everybody could stay the whole time, but Frugal and I spent a lot of time. He filmed content. We broke bread together. Spanky and I, we
We
went
have a
and
no
uh,
frugal compliment policy on this show. So no, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
He's a good dude.
Um,
Good dude.
and Spanky and I went and bought some just stuff off the side of the street, if you know what I mean. Like the
You better
watches and
you
different
better
stuff.
clarify that,
Yeah,
pops.
I am. That's what I said, some watches and different things. And Spanky was right there with me along the way. And Spanky, they're like brothers, and they're just good. I mean, like, my wife loves both of them to death. And they're just great, great people. The old jacket watch dealer. He wasn't a jacket watch dealer at all. It does, Max. So that's why I was clarifying. It was definitely some of the stuff that is might not be of the authentic stuff. To say that.
I love it. I
So go
love
ahead.
how we know
Yeah,
what you're saying. No, I do. I
yeah,
love Spanky too because I feel like I was. If I can get to Sin Explorer this year, he's gonna be my security guard. He doesn't know it, but
yes,
I need the Spanky street sense, right? Like that guy will do
yes.
anything for you. I love that.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes, shipping container. We did. I know some people heard it. We actually went to it. There was a church that was open. It was Catholic church. I'd never been to a Catholic church, but we went in. We followed Spanky's lead. We were doing all of that and lit a candle and sat there and listened. It was really genuine. It was really
I
nice and
love that. As a Catholic, I love
yeah,
that because I love. I mean, I was a
yeah,
Catholic who married a Baptist who is that I would do double duty. Like I would do Saturdays at the Catholic church and Sundays with the Baptist. I'm just all about it, right? Like why not?
yeah,
I cannot use
yeah,
too much God in my life. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, for
I'll take him
sure,
anywhere
for
I
sure.
can.
Yeah, so those are, I mean, and again, just some of the people, I don't want to mention or miss anybody, but that have just been very, very good to me in this community,
Yeah.
just very, very good to me.
Well, and I love it too because you've also got some big creators that you've created some relationships with, which I love.
Yeah.
You've got a friendly enough relation. I mean, I would say more than friendly. Cal Clone invited you out to his launch party, and you've got just other individuals that you've able to create relationships with too. And I think that also says a lot about what you're trying to build. And again, once again,
Yes.
the same theme of the night: authentic relationships that you build with people, and those pay off in the long run. Not that that's what you're looking for, but it's just being a genuine person and having those relationships matter. And I think that you being able to
Yes.
do that makes a whole lot of sense.
It does. Which I did miss you, Jody. Jody and I have been talking on the phone a little bit, and Jody's a great person. She asked me if she could reach out to me with some questions, and I'm always open for that. I'm in several group messages, so people, my phone number's in there. You can text me or call me. I'll answer any question about anything that's any of anybody's business. I'll say that like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to get in my personal business, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. So my goal of Sin Explorer was very different than everybody else's probably. It wasn't, I didn't go and smell a bunch of, I smelled House of Cosmo, Lorenzo Pasagalia. Um, there was a couple other brands downstairs and then a brand called Elysian, which I'm so glad I did because she is the owner of the Scented Cottage in Atlanta. So that was great. My goal was to meet with some content creators, really just, get to know them, let them get to know me. And I wanted to see what Scent Explorer was like and have a goal to have a booth there in 2026. So I met Cal, and of course, he didn't know me from anybody, and then just did the interview. Everybody's seen the interview, and people just loved it. He was surprised, some of the questions, and then same thing with Noel. I think Noel was a little bit um, I'm sorry, WT. That's the daughter, and yes, she was hot. She still is hot. She was a blonde chick. Yes, she sat there in her tight dress. Yes, that was.
Oh, WT.
But
God, I
yes,
love that
uh,
guy.
sorry, he threw me way off on that one. But anyway, yeah. So Noel, being in sales, you talked about earlier relationship. I knew these guys were big time, and this is their thing. So I'm like, I got to find something that's relatable. That's how we build relationships. You got to find a common ground. I played a lot of basketball. I knew Noel played basketball, so I was like, I'm gonna hit him. Well, I hit him before. Frugal can tell you with the video about his mom, and I don't know if anybody's seen that video. He talks about Gucci guilty and his mom bought it for him, but his mom passed away. So Frugal can tell you his shoulders literally let down and he like took his guard off when brought up his mom. And I said, listen, I was a mama's boy. I lost my mom. That video of all your videos was the coolest thing to me. Then once the video started, I kind of threw the basketball thing at him. So, he literally gave me his number and we connected and a couple other ones, that, Chris, the owner of House of Cosmo. We
Yeah.
just connected and we talked a little business. he actually messaged me. I wasn't going back on Saturday. They messaged me Friday night. They said, we watched a bunch of your videos. We understand you're a business person. Can you come back tomorrow? I said, sure. So I came back. They gave me a whole bunch of samples, and we just talked a little bit more about his brand and my brand and different things like that. But then when I went to Cosmoprof, Kyle and I had been, messaging. He has my fragrances. I'm sure he has not reviewed them online, but it was probably bad timing because of Thriller. Everything, it was all in him building up Thriller to drop at Cosmoprof. But he did smell them, and he told me he really liked them. He wanted to create a video with a couple of creators. But anyway, he said there was an open invitation for me and my wife to go to his after party. But when he saw me and my wife at Cosmoprof, it was very genuine. Some people say he's not, and that's crazy to me. He's a very genuine person. He hugged us and he hugged my wife. It's so good to see you. How are you? At his after party, same thing. When I got ready to leave the last day, same thing. Nobody was around, so it wasn't like he's putting on a show. And he just, bro hugged me and just said, man, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Thank you for everything. Thank you for supporting all that good stuff. So, Noel and I got to sit down and talk inside of one of the booths. We spent about 15 minutes. Matter of fact, House of Phoenix was there with us, and they just asked about, he had not smelled the fragrances I sent yet, but I showed him Sacred Sweetness. Him and Evan knows, who's big creator. He's always with Noel now. They were like, Sacred Sweetness is the most photorealistic fragrance we've ever smelled. Said, no joke. We just want you to know that. Said that is so spot on to a chocolate brownie. We've never smelled anything like that. So yeah, that it's my goal. So my thoughts are, right. You're always, you'll appreciate this, Dean. Is you're always thinking about the future, right? So my thoughts are, I've built hopefully a decent enough relation with, like, most people have seen the video with, oh my gosh, what, the Sin Addict,
Yeah,
Marshall. I
Marshall.
love Marshall's
Yeah.
he's my favorite. He's wore my fragrance every time he knows I'm going to be there. He wears something of mine. So that's kind of like a cool little thing. But my goal is for FragCon, and we may get to that. But my goal is okay, I've built enough rapport with these guys that hopefully they'll come to my booth and want to shoot content. They'll see, like, hey, we saw him when he wasn't at this point, and now look. Same thing with Sin Explore. If I can get there with a booth, is like, we met him before he was this, big or whatever, and get some content from him that way as well as the goal.
I think it's
But
a
to
good
build
business
long
plan.
term relationship. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a good business move. I really do, and I think that you're onto something there. And again, it's but the thing again, I guess I'll go back and I'll lead with is that yeah,
mhm,
that's going to be an outcome, hopefully a positive outcome of it, but it's really not what you've gone into it for. It's kind of really getting
mhm.
to talk about these things and just to kind of build relationships in this space, which have been so important. And yeah, without a doubt. So I do have one question about so we kind of were talking a little bit about WNs a little bit, and I just kind of was curious,
Sure.
that's so different from what you've done as a brand owner and as someone who sells, talking about the fragrances here on TikTok. So, what have you learned? Because I'll tell you, there's one other theme that I love about you that I think is so inspiring is that think about all the new things that you're learning at this point of your life. And again, I'm not saying, but you have grandchildren, so you're kind of, you're a little bit advanced more in that in life than some people are in this game. But think about all the things you're learning, like the fact that you're on TikTok, the fact that you're learning whatnot. I mean, all these things that you're doing, like not a lot of people would do that at at that point in life. So I think that is just a huge
Right.
testament to who you are as a person. And so I'd love to kind of hear about what you've learned and kind of how you're staying on the cutting edge of everything.
So that's what's kind of what you have to do. So it's a two-edged sword, right? Because Covenant, you can get Covenant so much cheaper on Whatnot that you can anywhere else. But in the end, it's twofold for me. Yes, people are getting it cheaper than if I just held firm and say you got to get it from the site or whatever, TikTok shop or whatever. But it's getting the brand out there. More and more people are learning, and then they come back and they buy more. So it's still brand awareness. Brand awareness comes with a cost. The owner of La Jate told me this. She said, be prepared to give away a lot of bottles. And even though people say, well, you're in 11 stores, that is great. But 11 stores is not paying the bills. Some of those stores only order 15, 20 bottles. They don't have the whole collection. So if they sell 5 or 10 a month, that's not paying the bills. Like you gotta go. So that's where the hustling comes in. And what I saw with Whatnot is, you start picking up on like, hey, what do you guys want? Run 10 mLs, run 30. It's more people wanting more of my brand, even though I've got Michael Malone, I've got Fragrance Story, I've got Aroma Concepts, um, and I'm still working tons of relationships in the background. Some people do question, and I don't want to get off subject, but like, why aren't you on live so much? I'm working, man. Like Aroma Concepts, Frank, like I'm working all of these relationships and trying to find another vendor for this and another vendor for that. I mean, it's a lot of work, that it just doesn't fall in your lap. So and then you gotta, like you said earlier, you gotta um work these relationships and, build trust and, all those things with it. But the biggest thing from that WN is just, it's a golden opportunity. And I feel like I'm getting in at the right time. Some people are obviously way ahead of me, but, again, and I say this humbly, but I feel like I'm likable. We have the energy. We try to keep it moving. We don't just do a lot of small talk. It's like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And when it starts dying down, okay, there's less people. We need to shut it down, and you make what you make. And in the end, I'm looking like this. I'm not looking like this. It's big picture for me. And there's things we're doing. WT mentioned it. My wife probably has 100 different items that she's going to be eventually offering on that platform as well, like watch bands, and she's created more shirts, and she's got jewelry. We've got jewelry with um, perfume bottles on them. I mean, just 100, tons of things. Like our minds are always like, okay, what can we use this platform for? So that's kind of what I've learned from that. Is just another way to generate some revenue, get to know more people. Hopefully those platforms cross, you know, like when I saw you you heard me say, hey, go follow this guy, and we want those communities to cross over and bleed over into each other.
Well said. Well, thanks for sharing that. And like I said, kudos to you. I really mean that. Like, as someone that education's important. Like, I hope to be that same way. Like, I think often about like what is going to change again. Like, I still have 35, 40 years still to work, right? Like, how much is going to change over the next 35 to 40 years? Right? Like, I'm going to have to be that
Yeah,
same guy that takes a risk and tries to do something that's maybe uncomfortable and like doesn't
yeah,
doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense, but I'm gonna have to, right? Because it to stay relevant. And I love that. And that's so I don't think we give enough credit to people that do that because there's so many people that won't do that. And people that have
yeah,
probably
right.
retired, right? They've retired because they don't want to learn a new system or they don't want to go through something else
Yeah,
because they'd rather just not do anything. And so kudos to you
yeah.
for doing that.
Have you
One
seen the guy on TikTok that interviews millionaires and billionaires? Have you seen him?
No, I don't
He
think
just
so.
walks up to him randomly. Yeah, he will. He's got like 1 million followers too. He'll randomly walk up to a billionaire and just say, "Can I ask you a few questions?" And usually they're like, "No," but then he'll end up getting to interview them. And he talks about his social media, but he always asks them. And one of the most consistent messages from most of them or is that you have to take risks, and risks are very uncomfortable. I'm not a gambler, but you know, I'm gonna ride a wave, as long as I can ride it. I may be adjusting in the background, you know, something else. I have my education. I've obviously, I have things I can fall back on. Um, I'll be honest, like I may end up full-time ministry again.
Mhm.
I really may. I've pastored 2 churches, and I'm on staff at this one as not paid staff, but I may end up doing that, like wherever God leads me, that's what I'm going to do. But in this season, this thing is working and I'm going to ride this wave. It's risky. This next whatnot may be $300, Now I'm planned. I shouldn't be because I'm 3 weeks out. You know what I mean? Toby's like my sounding board. I'm like, okay, what do you think about this? What do you think? I'm probably 3 or 4 weeks out already on what I think I'm gonna drop and how I'm gonna drop it and things like that. Covenant and the other stuff. So just you have to be.
I love it. I love it. So I got a question for those of you that are going to be trying, because there's people in here we've already heard from that are going to be trying covenant scents for the first time possibly. What's that first scent you're going to recommend for them to try? What's the gateway the gateway scent
Oh
into
man.
covenant that you would recommend? I know it's like asking you to pick one of your children, but what would you think what would you recommend for them?
It's funny because, when people
Jody's
ask, I
already answering
always
for you.
say, yeah, sovereign. But it's funny. Like right now, I built Valor to take over Maverick. Maverick is the number one seller in all the stores. It's very mass appealing. That's the way I built it. I've shared this. It's the same DNA as Blue Day Chanel. And so thank all of you. I really mean that. But it's built differently. Um, but I do think Valor will probably be the most mass appealing going forward for the guys. For the girls, Jesse's girl, will probably in Sacred Sweetness are always going to be right there at the top. But it just depends on now if you're into the niche, and like you think you can handle some unique stuff, then Pirate's Treasure, Noble, Inner Court. And I think I've shared this story with you. Inner Court is still in Refinery Fragrance, and they have this Italian brand, and the owner was in from Italy, and he was while they were chatting, he was smelling stuff. He smelled Inner Court, and he said, "I have to have this bottle." And it was the tester. That's all they had left. And he's like, "It's the tester," and he's like, "No, I will pay you for it. This has to go back to Italy with me." He said, "This is a work of art." And so the owner of Refinery called me. He's like, "I have to tell you this. I have to tell you this is so cool." So, but those are just not like basic fragrances that somebody's gonna be like, ooh, because Inner Court's a rose. It's a manly rose. It's a water rose with an oud in the background. So it's just not like mass appealing. Noble is a lavender floral fragrance. It's not your mass appealing. So I would still say it's Maverick, Relentless, Valor, those three to me, and then right now my favorite is Sovereign,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's good. I mean, I appreciate you going through some of the sense there and kind of going through the notes. And hey, I told you, and I wasn't joking with you. Whenever time allows, that collab you got, I'm in for it. So we'll
yeah,
work on that.
I'm
We'll come
I'm
up.
definitely down. I will say this, I pitched it to a couple people.
Good.
Some people, it is. I mean, one I thought I had a commitment from, and they bailed on it, and that's okay. I was a little disappointed, but that's why I was so like very serious that I think it'd be really cool
It would be.
if you did one,
Oh,
and
100%.
like
I'd be honored. I'd be honored. And yeah, I'd be all for
yeah,
that. And hey, and that's the other thing I guess I would throw out there is that people sometimes think that like and I've seen this happen in business a lot. Like they feel like, okay, I work with this person, I can't work with. A perfect example for me is where I work here in Southern Indiana. We've got some major construction companies that do some amazing work, and I always would say, I always laugh like just because I work with one of them doesn't mean I can't work with the other one in the next project. Like you just
absolutely,
it's a big enough community where you just you gotta if we just worked with one individual person, same way with your business, you'd be out of business,
that's
before
right.
it happened. So it's just that's the business world.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
You, yeah, you know who I'm competing with? Me.
Yeah.
That's who I have to compete with me every single day. I
Well
have to
said.
defeat me, every day. I got to defeat my flesh. I got to defeat my weaknesses. I got to defeat my insecurities. I got to defeat all of it, all the naysayers. That's who I'm against. I'm not against any other brand. I don't care what they do. They say I'm not against Niles. I'm not competing. I'm not competing with, you know, day three fragrances, you know, and those two are the owner of day three, Michael Paul, gave me his card with his cell number and said, you can call me. I'll tell you who I bottle with, you know, all of that stuff. But that's not my competition. My
No.
competition is me.
I love that, and well said. Kudos to you for that. So I've kept you a little bit longer than I anticipated, but this has been such a great
Oh, I'm
conversation.
good.
Yeah, I know this
I'm
has been
good.
so fascinating. So I kind of want to know what's next because you're talking about 5 and 10 steps out. Like I kind of want to like where in you know only what you can share because I know there's probably some secrets in here that we'll just have to find out in time. But where does the mind of Pops go when you have a spare 2 minutes in your day to think about like what's
So
next or what's down the road?
yeah. So we have, we just dropped Azil. We dropped Purple Rain, which is a super weird grape. I did not perfume these. A buddy of mine did, but they come from the same oil company. So I want to be very, very clear on that. So they do meet all the standards. Endless Summer, is dropping this week. There's a new one coming. I named it Resolute, but I'm gonna change the name of it. I'm not real big on that name. But anyway, it's a ginger, not like the Covenant, but it's a ginger leather, um, unique fragrance, very masculine. But the future, my wife and I have built 4 fragrances in the feminine line. We want to start going a little into that direction. Um, when we get our plan is, without saying too much, when we get to FragCon, we will have new fragrances. There will be one in particular as an homage to my mom. That is like, look at me, mom, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like,
That
it would definitely be an honor to her. But our plan is to drop some new fragrances. We will probably have a new bottle and a new box. Our booth, we plan to try to go to the 10th power. You know what I mean? Like we really want it. We want people to walk away and go, just like they did House of Cosmo. Like, um, you know, that's the booth everybody should go to. So
it worked
that's the
for him.
plan. Yeah. We will be very professional. Obviously I told Jody today, I want everybody to come around. I want to shoot content. I want to take pictures, but we're there for business. We're there to promote our brand. And I'm going to be in business mode. I'm going to laugh and cut up and all too, but it's very much about representing my brand because guess what? I'm on a corner, so when you're on a corner, there's going to be people, drinking sodas or whatever, but they're all going to have a view and what they see. Sometimes you get one chance to make a first impression. So, I'm not about any of the antics and I'm there for business. But anyway, that's part of the vision. I
So
want to keep growing
that's
whatnot.
FragCon, right? That's FragCon you're
That's
talking about.
FragCon.
So tell
Yeah.
everybody about where and when, if there's anybody here that doesn't know about FragCon, where they can get more information, so they can come see you if they're close.
Yeah, Mullins, absolutely. I want all of you at FragCon to come and interview me. I want to interview you. I'm going to be shooting content. I'm going to have my Meta glasses and different things. I mean, my daughter's going to be there. Toby's going to be helping at the booth some. Frugal's offered to help, different ones, that so definitely come by and interview. And that's in August in Houston, Texas. To be honest, I don't even remember the dates
I think it's the
off the top of
14th
my
and
head.
15th, maybe. It's somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. We're actually driving, and we're going to be bringing a bunch of inventory you can sell at the event. So that's the plan, is to really just go and do a big thing. Um, we had planned on going to and having a booth at ASD in Vegas. I just don't know yet if I'd rather spend the money for Sin Explorer, but Sin Explorer is 10 grand. I do know that. I mean, it's not cheap, but I mean, Sin Explorer, like, FragCon could do it too. FragCon could pole vault you to, the next level pretty fast. But Sin Explorer is like I think that's the holy grail of places to be. Um, so we'll see. I mean, that's, obviously with my job change and all, that was nothing at the time. Like, oh, heck yeah, we're doing Sin Explorer. But now it's kind of like, we're, which is some of the reasons we're hustling so hard when you talk about the future, whatnot. My goal with over there is, and I'm sorry for saying it, but the
No, it's
WN is to be, hopefully get to where I'm Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with enough drops and enough other brands. And, we're expanding the Michael Malone line in there. We'll expand Fragrance Stories, new drops, and we're looking for more things like that. But that's kind of where the vision is to keep selling, this new, it's called fragrance, no, I'm sorry, Reflection House. There is a website that will be launched. It's already launched, but there's nothing on there as far as all the other stuff will be over there. So that will be taking off as well and have its own little entity. Now it'll still be under one Whatnot, so it will still drive, all that kind of stuff through there. So that's kind of the vision of where I see it going. Um, right now, just I don't mind telling you, I'll quickly say on Reflection House, we have some of the newest stuff that's niche that we're getting ready. We've already got Purple Melancholia,
oh
we've
wow.
got Paradigm, we've got Love-O-Matic, we've got Mojave Ghost Absolute. We've got some oils that, are fantastic, and we're going to be launching even more of the niche, popular things, in the future. They'll be stacked weeks out.
I love that. I mean, I love that you're doing that, but I also love, I love what you're doing because it makes a lot of sense too for those that aren't in the business. But you can't, when you do those inspirations, you really can't. You don't want to mix those with your brand that you put so much brand value
Y-
in. A lot of places where
mhm.
you sell, they don't want you to do that because
Right,
it's not that's not what they're looking to do, right? Like they're a specialty niche, indie independent house, and so I love that
right.
you're doing that and you're going to have both brands to be able to serve both segments of the market. I think that's so smart. And I think that that's going to
Yeah.
serve you well moving forward.
And I'll probably have a face of that besides myself. It might not be on Whatnot, I'm gonna be the face of Whatnot, but I'll probably have a, you know, I'm really blessed to understand business and how business operates. And so I'll probably have another face behind it and even a different name as the owner, because people are going to be nosy. But
Sure.
we'll just drive it a different direction, and just use what I know and know how to do to drive it to where, Covenant Sense, we don't do dupes, we don't do inspirations. We're inspired by things, but Covenant Sense is
Yep.
its own thing. But we have access to stuff that is great and fantastic, and there's a market for that. And who says we can't live in that market as well in some way,
It's
shape, or
called
form?
it's called diversification, and all the best businesses do it.
Yes,
So if you didn't
that's
do it,
right.
then it would be you'd be
Yeah.
questioning what kind of business guy you were. So that makes a lot of
Right.
sense.
But yeah, I mean, and I don't want a store to drop me, but if a store drops me, then we probably need to have a serious conversation. You know what I mean? Like, hey, understand what we're doing here. It didn't change anything that was in your store, the quality of it, things like that. Because I promise if you take whatever. You can take Sovereign, and you can smell, you can go to the biggest fragrance store in the world. You're not gonna find anything that smells anything like Sovereign. You're not gonna find anything, you might find a note that's similar, but you're not gonna find, you know, that. Um, so anyway,
So what's the
that's kind of the
cadence?
brain.
What's the cadence on the
Go ahead.
WN? So we're doing Mondays and Fridays. Is that what we're doing right now?
Right now, yeah, Mondays and Fridays. And it's strategic, right? We know people get paid on Fridays, right? Mondays are a little tougher, but it's really around, you're trying to just think about how this works, and when people get paid, that they spend their monies on Fridays. I do, and it's that's the reason for it, is try to be, and what I also like about Fridays on Whatnot, the WN, is I get till like Tuesday to ship it because of the weekend. Because you normally have just 2 days, 48 hours. So, but I'd like to get to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is the goal, but I've got to have enough product and different things and varieties
Yeah.
to carry 3 nights. Because in the end, you guys, mostly, especially the people in here, are the ones buying it, right? So I'm trying to expand and get
Sure.
more of an audience, and too. I mean, obviously, I still want all of you buying, but I'm not an idiot to know that we need more people, coming in to do, and so we got to entice them. Like I said, Toby and I've talked. We're gonna change the backdrop a little bit. It's gonna look a little different. We're gonna got some ideas on the backdrop, and just something that's eye catching, and just do different things. I'm gonna try. We're gonna go down swinging, as they say.
No, I absolutely love it. What's one thing if people ask, because I know people want to support and they want to help you. What's one thing that someone in here that wants to support you can do to help you now? What's one thing that you wish people would do
Just
to be able to help you with anything?
there's a couple of things, right? One is share it out, right? Just share that. That's the big thing. If it And people are doing a lot of videos. I haven't asked anybody, to make videos or anything, but people are making videos for Covenant. That goes a long way. It really does. So that's awesome that they're pushing that out. But the biggest thing I would say is in this community, without going too deep, Dean, but if you have questions, just ask me. It's just that simple. Hopefully through this interview, people can tell I'm the same. I try to just be a normal guy. I will answer any question you have about anything um, you have questions about, and that would be the biggest thing that I could say is, but also don't let somebody else influence you. Um, you know what I mean? Like, I, you know, Dean is Dean because Dean is good to me. You know what I mean? Like, if and I'll just pick on Toby. If Toby said, hey, Dean sucks, I'm going to be like, no, Dean's a great guy because Dean and I have a relationship. That's my biggest thing without, stretching out anything. But like that's,
Yeah, that makes a
you know
lot
what
of
I'm
sense.
saying?
I say that a lot to my
Like that would be
kids.
my,
Yeah, I say a lot
yeah,
to my kids when I talk about it to them because they're kind of figuring out life right now. And one of the things I always tell
right.
them, I'm like, don't base your relationships with someone. Your relationship with someone's based off of you, not on somebody else's relationship. Because I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of
Absolutely.
friends that maybe don't jive with somebody else, but they're still a great friend to me, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's life. Like that happens. So, 100%
That's it.
well said there.
You know? Yeah. So that'd be the biggest way they can help. Um, is just is that, the
Yeah.
videos, that goes a long way.
How much do you
It really,
pay
really does.
content creators like WT not to promote your video? Especially when they
I
spray it on
know.
their stomach potentially. Do you
See,
pay content creators
mm,
not to put out videos, or is that not really a thing in the
yeah,
space?
believe it or not, my wife is like, when is WT doing a video? She just loved, my favorite one. Well, belly button was my favorite till he said inner thigh worthy. And I thought that was the best 3 words, ITW, that overtook belly button for me. So, yeah, that was, super fun. So, yeah, but I mean, Crystal does a great job. Whitney does a great job. Panda, there's so many people that make the videos. TJB and Allie are dropping videos, and it's I haven't asked anybody to make videos. Toby makes videos. Jacob, all these guys, man, and it means a lot. It goes a long way. So that means the world to me for
Well,
sure.
thank you for saying that, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. And like I said, it's one of those things where I'm going to give you the last word for sure here in just a second to say anything else you want to say. But I one of the things that I that I do know for sure is that a lot of people love you, love what you do, love to support the brand. I think that it's a great community, and I think that's the thing that I continue to to realize and love is that when you're genuine and authentic and when you do things the right way, like you've talked about throughout this interview, I mean, I think things really come back and it makes the community fun. And so just props to you. It's been so
It
much
does.
fun. I'm just going to tell you, if watching,
Absolutely.
it's been so much fun to watch what you guys have done and
Thank
you
you.
taking risk and just know that you're an inspiration to other people as well. You know, I think there's a lot of things
Thank
we've
you.
talked about tonight that could have applied to anything in life, not just fragrance and not just, all of us have jobs. We're
Right.
all working somewhere. We're all going through things. We're all trying to figure
Right.
this thing called life out. And I love how many things we talked about tonight probably crossed over into other areas and hopefully somebody could take something and apply it to their life and use it to motivate them
Yep.
too. And I think that's pretty special if
Yep.
we were able to accomplish that.
I'll say, not to be like emotional or whatever, but it's been 5 months. It's been very difficult. Uh, just like taking me down some roads that, just been very, very difficult for me. Like I've been in a slump. I've been kind of down and out in the dumps, to be honest. I've had some high moments, obviously going to different things, doing different events has been fun. But the work side has just, been taxing. And I know I've said his name a lot, but Toby has just been a great friend. I call him 3 or 4 times a day and just, you know, I almost feel bad because almost all of it's about me and then the different things that's going on. But it's just, sometimes it's just somebody that doesn't know anything. You just need a voice to talk to. So that's what I'm trying to get people to say is you don't have to be alone in your moments of down and out and struggling and understand sometimes people are reaching out for help. They might not know how, um, and I can tell you I slept this morning till 8:30. It's the first time in 5 months I've got a good night's sleep because I finally got what we call a breakthrough yesterday. Got some answers to some questions. And yeah, so it's been a rough haul. Even though it's, like I said, a lot of great things happen and a lot of stuff behind the scenes has been very taxing. And it's nothing with me and my wife. It's just been all business stuff, business. And, but I just want to encourage people like, don't struggle alone. Talk to somebody, reach out for help, ask for prayer. Prayer works. And so things like that, you don't have to. Toby and I come from different worlds, but guess what? He helps me. There's times he's like, dude, make a freaking video, would you? You know, TJB, we've been able to just talk on a spiritual level. And, Jacob will call and it's like, bro, did you see this? And, but next thing you know, it's 45 minutes later. And, yeah, it's just, Spanky and I talked an hour and a half the other night and it was so good, so all of that, this community is, it's been a big help. It really has.
I love it. I love it. Well, we think the world of you. Thank you so much for joining. And like I said,
Thank
thank
you.
you all in the chat too. Thank you for being here tonight. This has been a fun one, Pops. I want to be honest. And you know why
Yeah,
it's been
thank
so
you.
fun? It's been fun because you've been so vulnerable and you've been open and you've
Thank
talked about
you.
things. And I can't thank you enough. That's what every interviewer wants. So thank you for doing that. And oh, thanks, TJB. I appreciate it. You think so much
Yeah.
of me because I
Yeah.
got that 200 milliliter girl on. I know it, TJB. No. No.
So yeah, it's true, and everybody knows or should know this. Dean, you're one of the best, and like legit. What you said about me, genuine. We can all tell you're a genuine person too. I would love to meet you in person, break bread with you. I really would. I think I've told people privately, you and Fuzier, I think y'all are going to go a long way in this community because you're just authentic, you're real. And the way you're doing it is super unique. So you're a great person and you deserve the blessings that are going to come your way, man. Like it's
Thank you
it's
so
it's
much.
really
I
awesome.
appreciate it. It
Yeah.
means the world to me. Guys, thank you for joining Friday Talk Live midweek edition. Please continue to check things out. We're here every Wednesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. We're here every Saturday, 10 a.m. On the weekend for the community. Come up in a box. We'll all chat about what we got this week and what we love, what we don't love. And hopefully some of you that are going to be checking out these new Covenant scents fragrances, you'll be able to tell us what you think about them on the Saturday show. So thanks again. I really appreciate you all Well, I hope you guys have a safe night. Have a beautiful night, and we'll see you guys. See you guys on Saturday. Take care, everybody.
Sounds like good night, everybody.